Digital Foundry is sponsored by MSI's new range of next-generation QD OLED gaming monitors, with 27 and 32-inch 16:9 displays alongside 49 and 34-inch ultra-wides. These high refresh rate screens feature a graphene film with a custom heatsink, gaming intelligence AI features, and MSI Care 2.0 OLED burn-in protection. Check out the video description to learn more about MSI's excellent range of OLED gaming panels.
Astro was one of the highlights of the PlayStation 5 launch. Through showcasing the DualSense controller's haptic feedback features, beautiful visuals, creative level design, and just so much good old-fashioned fun. And thankfully, just recently, it was announced, finally, that a full, proper, complete, standalone game is being made. Not in VR, like the PSVR version, but an actual PS5 game. And I got to play it. I went over to Sony headquarters here in Frankfurt and sat down for over an hour to sample an excellent demo of Astro, and I wanted to talk about it and let Rich sort of bounce some questions off of me, who's here to talk about it as well.
Yeah, really excited about this one, John, for obvious reasons, because, I think you and I both agree that in the last few years, Sony's kind of become a lot more focused on a specific type of game, to the detriment of stuff like Astro, which is just fun, exciting, and Japanese, dare I say it. And the opportunity for you to go hands-on, hugely exciting. I'm kind of somewhat jealous. So where do we start here?
They brought me into this very nice, luxurious room with a very large Sony Bravia TV, blasting HDR, and sat down in front of this thing, and quickly discovered that basically the game's broken up into this sort of like galaxy map, where there's a bunch of different planets, galaxies scattered around. You fly your controller-based ship around. For the demo, we can only enter one of them, and from there, a ton of planets are available, which all represent different levels. Looks like there's a ton in here. For this demo, though, there was basically two main stages, a boss fight, and then these sort of smaller challenge levels that kind of reminded me, actually, of Super Mario Sunshines. Like, that's the first thing that comes to mind, where it's like there's levels where they take away FLUDD and you're in this little platforming zone, and that's what you got. First impression is, it's extremely smooth and beautiful, and I loved how seamless it was going into the planets, where basically, Astro is clinging onto this controller like a rocket ship. It blasts down to the planet. They do sort of that, space warp effect, right? But then it seamlessly comes out of the warp into the game world itself, and it pops you out. You're still flying this thing the whole time. Even in the loading, you have full control with the motion sensing, so you're basically piloting your PS5 controller down into the map, and then you crash land it and hop off, and the level begins. And I would say it seems to me that they're still using the same base technology as the PS5 pack-in. It looks similar to that, but it feels like that, but more. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm, absolutely, which is kind of what you'd expect from a full-price game, as opposed to a pack-in. But yeah, I think that was the sort of takeaway that I had from the initial reveal trailer, and it looks like you've got some new B-roll as well. It's just super, super slick, highly attractive game.
Exactly. And yeah, it's like, it's in the 1800, 1872p range right now, which I think is similar to the original, but it looks good enough. It's very, very clean, nice. But really what sells this actually is the amount of physical interactions and just creativity in the level design. And this is the kind of stuff we don't actually see that often anymore, but they have a really nice fluid simulation in there. They have this glass system where when you smash through the glass, inertia is taken into account, so the glass breaks sectionally into chunks based on where you hit it, and the glass pieces actually fly out at different speeds based on the velocity of your character. So it really makes it feel like, oh, you're like busting through this glass. There's this section here where you have to aim this little cannon of goo to highlight hidden platforms, and it's like all like dripping and running off onto the ground, and any place that has water or goo or any sort of liquid on the land, like lapping up from the water just somewhere, and you run around in it, it actually sort of like just moves and reacts like you'd expect liquid. It feels like this sort of fluid body experiments that we used to see, and they just kind of went away. But then there's also just like, even just the regular rigid body physics, like there's spots where they'll just have it feels like hundreds of individual little items that all have physical properties that are all like banging around together. Like there's this part where you climb up and there's a piece of glass and there's like hundreds of these little like tin cans just like scattered around. They all react to Astro as you run through it. You could break the glass and they all fall through in this like big like sim heavy looking way. There's all the like the flowers. There's like right away there's this pond with the water that has proper 3D ripples, and there's all these little flowers or whatever leaves scattered across the surface that all like move with Astro as you run around through the water. I'm such a sucker for that kind of stuff, and it just makes the whole world feel alive. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm. Absolutely, yeah. Wow, that sounds really, really cool. Something I've got a question about, and it all goes back to that original pack-in demo, which is DualSense controller, right? Because if we think about it, PlayStation 5 arrived with that pack-in game. I still think it is by far and away the best implementation of the features of the DualSense controller. And surely it's the same here, if not better.
Indeed. Not only does it replicate that very well, it seems like they've gone even further. And talking to them about it, it seems like the idea here was to make sure that every little thing that you could interact with in the world, like no matter how small, whether it does anything or not, is designed to sort of cause a haptic feedback in the controller. So there's just this constant, very wide range of like sensations you get out of the controller that I love it. It reminded me what Astro did so well, and it's even better here for sure. And it's the subtleties, right? It's not about the big rumbles. It's those little tiny tick, 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 tick. The way his legs feel on different types of surfaces. Like when I mentioned that scene with all the tin cans all gathered up. When you're actually like walking through that on the glass, if you close your eyes, you really feel like you're like moving through something that's on top of like a glassy like surface. Like it really communicates that feeling of the material in a way that basically no other game has ever done. It is, I would say, even just based on this demo, it's the best we've ever experienced in terms of just haptic quality, you know?
That's really, really exciting. And the control of Astrobot's always been super, super tight, and I guess it's the same here too.
Exactly. Honestly, just the combination of the controls and the stage design, to me, this feels like a high-end Nintendo game in terms of quality and the spit shine and fluidity of the movement, but it has a lot of creativity and things that are very PlayStation. So it ends up feeling very weirdly authentic, and it's like the first game I've seen in a while. They have not done this in years, where it really feels like they're acknowledging their legacy, right? There's enough stuff in there where you're like, oh man, these guys, like, they get it. They understand what made PlayStation great in the past, and this feels like a celebration of that in a way. Obviously, you saw in that initial trailer, there's like the little bots you can rescue that are themed after various characters. Like, I was delighted when you run into like Jam or Lammy, for instance, the version of the bot. And there's tons of that stuff just hidden in there all over the place. But even the regular bots, like, they're all just like in that PS5 pack-in, they're all doing stuff, but then everything's doing stuff. Like, it really is just like they looked at every little inch of every level and made sure, like, no matter what you're doing, if you interact with something, the game has to push back and interact with you. It meets you there. And that's just that. I think that's really cool, and that's where I'm sure a lot of the development time has gone into creating this thing. It's just making sure everything meets the player when you play around with it, and I love it.
Excellent. So I've got one last question for you, which isn't on the sheet here that we've got of topic points. This game's going to come out probably around the same time as the PS5 Pro, and I think we talked about it in the Direct where we tackled the reveal, and it didn't look as though there were too many vectors for actually making this game look better. And I'm kind of wondering, now you've gone hands-on with it, whether that opinion has changed.
I mean, basically, as far as I could say, the only thing I could see them really improving upon here is you could technically raise the res all the way to native 4K, which would make a tiny difference given that it's already pretty high. But I think the better thing, and who knows if it's even possible given the CPU constraints, is whether they could get to 120 frames per second. Because the game is currently just 60, which is, I say just 60, but a nice locked 60 is very good. But if you get 120 FPS, that would be even better, and that would be the way I would see. I would like to see them utilize the PS5 Pro.
Was it a lock 60 in the demo that you saw?
Yeah. Outside of, there was one very specific instance where you broke open like this tank of water and all the water comes gushing out and the glass pushes with it, where I saw just very momentary hiccup in performance, but everything else was completely flawless. VRR was not enabled on this TV, so it was just raw 60 FPS gameplay, and it was extremely smooth.
Well, it sounds like you're hugely excited about it, and I noticed yesterday when you got back in from the demo, you were already talking Game of the Year possible contender.
Yeah, I mean, it's this. If it's as good as this demo, and if it's as good as that initial pack-in, but bigger and more, then yeah, it's up in the running for. I mean, you know the types of games I enjoy. It's absolutely in the running for that kind of top spot on my list, because it's just. I mean, you just see it right, like. It's just that creativity, right? We cover games. We've been covering games for a long time. We've seen it all, it feels like. But there's like a delightfulness here. There's things that happened in the demo, like little things, like moments and sequences that just, you're like, this makes me happy to experience this. Like, this is something I didn't expect, or this is something I've not really seen in this way before, or like a fun reference. Just when you combine it all together, it genuinely makes me happy to play this game. It feels like such an inviting, fun place, and it still has a challenge to it. It's not a dead simple game either. There is a challenge here. I genuinely think this could be one of the best 3D platform games like ever made. If they can execute on this vision and do this across the entire game and keep this level of creativity, then it could actually go down as one of the best 3D platformers of all time in my book. And I really hope they can pull it off, because I think this team is extremely talented and low-key one of the best studios Sony has right now. Like, these guys are among the best developers in their entire stable. I'm going to say it. Like, they're that good.
Absolutely. Any final words? I think we've pretty much covered all the topic points we wanted to hit on this one.
Yeah, pretty much. I mean, I would also say the music was awesome. I mean, I love the score. It was great in that original pack-in. It's awesome here. Some really catchy tunes. The integration of the Astrobot vocals in there is also fun. Like, the whole thing is just, man, I really... It's so rare to feel this these days. I get excited about new games. I enjoy them, but they rarely elicit this sort of like passionate, like level of excitement that I felt playing this. I don't say these types of things lightly, right? I like to appreciate games, but to reach this level is very difficult, and few games can achieve it. So. Man, I'm so excited to play more. I can't wait.
I mean, one final point from me, I just think there's a lot of positive feelings about this game generally amongst the audience, but I think the icing on the cake, the cherry on top, if they just put out a playable demo maybe a couple of weeks before launch, I think it would just seal the deal.
Yeah, that's an I mean, we already have the pack-in, right, which is almost like it's like a prequel demo in a way, but I agree there should be a demo, and I really hope that people give this a shot based on this, because I really think this could be, I hope, a big hit for them. Because have you ever met a person that looks at Astro and think, oh, that's a dumb character, I don't like that, that's annoying? Like, everybody loves that little bot.
Yeah, I think it's one of Sony's most underdeveloped franchises for sure, and if this basically takes it to the next level, that could only be a good thing.
Exactly. So that's pretty much it. I love this demo so much. It is currently my most anticipated game for the rest of this year. And I cannot wait to get my hands on the final game. So when that happens, I will be covering it for sure. And hopefully we'll have more. It'll give us a better understanding of the whole package, because that's the thing, right? This is still just a bite-sized demo. And the question is, can they maintain this quality and momentum and creativity across this whole game? So that's what I'm waiting for. But anyway, thanks for joining me, Rich.
Sounds cool. I can't wait to play it.
Heck yeah, absolutely. And thank you all for watching, and we'll see you soon with more content here on Digital Foundry.